Just imagine a young woman full of dreams, newly married, planning every detail of the perfect honeymoon in a paradise resort, all included, where the only commitment would be to relax to the sound of the waves. But suddenly, she finds herself trapped in a scenario that looks more like a horror movie, a time-forgotten village, a wooden bathroom in the backyard, and the responsibility to take care of a paralyzed mother-in-law that is actually not as helpless as it looks. And the worst, the husband, instead of supporting her, decrees the greatest naturalness. This is his obligation as a wife. It was at this moment that she understood. Either changes everything now, or will be condemned to a life of servitude disguised as love. Good night, dear listeners. Here is Andre Branco, and it is with great pleasure that I receive them once again on the channel Soul's Gems. Today, I will share with you a story that will make you rethink everything you think you know about marriage, duties, and especially respect. Prepared? So they settled down, because this narrative is one that marked out Elizabeth imagined the beginning of her life to two quite differently. After a simple but promises marriage, Roman had swore he would take her to a week of pure enchantment in Turkey, a sea-facing hotel, sunset, and the feeling that the whole world conspired in favor of their happiness. She had already separated the most beautiful bikinis, the light dresses that danced in the wind, and spent hours dreaming, awake with the photos of the travel agency leaflets. But 3 days before the match, Roman came home with an expression that froze her blood. She didn't have to say anything. The heavy silence, her eyes running away from hers, and the way she stirred her fingers nervously already handed the message. Grandma Fedosia is very bad. He finally let go as if the words they hurt. My parents are not handling. We need to go to the farm in place of Turkey. Elizabeth felt the floor open. And the tickets? And the hotel? Everything was already paid. Romano stammered something about his mother promised that the money would be reimbursed to another date, but the tone was so uncertain that even a child would suspect. But Grandma is alone, needs care. He added, as if it justified destroying his wife's dreams. She felt her disappointment burn inside, like acid. I wanted to scream, cry, demand justice, but it was the beginning of marriage, and being understanding seemed the noblest attitude. Then he swallowed his pride, kept his beach clothes and exchanged them for threadbare jeans and two wide T-shirts. The destination would not be White Sands, but a clay house, smelling the mold and abandonment. The village welcomed them with mud to their ankles, crooked fences that threatened to collapse, and oppressive silence, broken only by the hungry dogs. Grandma's house was a barrel of gunpowder about to explode, walls that ranked the wind, a wood-like stove that looked more like a monster, and, in the backyard, a bathroom, if it deserved that name, made of rotten tablets with a carved heart at the door. Like a cruel irony of fate. Inside the only room, the old woman lay in an iron bed, her eyes glazed, her voice dragged. One stroke had left her paralyzed, or at least that's what they said. Seeing the couple, a crooked smile illuminated his face, but Elizabeth noticed something strange in that brilliance. It was not gratitude. It was triumph. Finally the daughter-in-law arrived. He whispered, with a malice that froze Elizabeth's spine, "Now I'm going to rest." Roman, without wasting time, sank in an armchair against television, claiming tiredness of the trip. "Do you care, love?" he asked, already yawning. Elizabeth was alone with her mother-in-law, who suddenly demanded water, food, pillow adjustments. The window opened, the window closed at dusk. It was clear that Grandma Fedosia was not as fragile as she looked. She commanded the situation with the accuracy of a general, manipulating me and sometimes like a puppet. It was enough Elizabeth to sit for 5 minutes for an authoritarian cry to echo, "Girl, come here, bring the penny, give me water." Every time Elizabeth asked her husband for help, the answer was the same: "This is a woman thing. You know how to handle these things better." Meanwhile, she was divided between the stove, where food burned, the mother-in-law's bed, where the orders had no end, and the backyard, where the bathroom was a proof of resistance. On the third day, the mask began to fall. Elizabeth caught Fedosia getting up on her own when she thought no one saw, walking to the wardrobe and devouring hidden sweets. Realizing that it was observed, the old woman collapsed in bed like a cloth doll, moaning like she was on the brink of death. "Roman, we need to talk," said Elizabeth, the trembling voice of anger contained. "Your grandmother is not as sick as pretends. I saw her walking." Exclamation like this. He exploded, outraged. "She is an invalid. Need care!" Exclamation lie. "I saw with my own eyes. She gets up when she thinks she's alone. You're imagining things." He cut cold. "And even if it was true, taking care of my family is your duty as a wife." That was the drop of water. Instead of a honeymoon, Elizabeth had gained an unpaid job of caregiver, while her husband watched impassive as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Worse, Grandma Fedosia had become a monster. It required daily baths, cheat exchanges, special foods, and until Elizabeth emptied her keen, all she criticized her mercy. The daughter-in-law of the Petrovs that she is real, he grumbled. Washing, kitchen, milks cow and still smiles. You only know how to make an ugly face. Roman, of course, always took advantage of his grandmother. You need to have more patience, Elizabeth. She's sick, poor thing, as if the disease justified abuse. On the fifth day, Elizabeth had the confirmation she needed. Very early, he peeped out the window and saw Theodosia get out of bed with impressive agility, walk to the wardrobe, take a bag of bullets and devour them with gluttony. Noticing the movement outside, the old woman threw back on the bed, pretending to sleep. That's when Elizabeth traced her plan. Grandma Theodosia, he said, with a sweet smile, to be honest, I decided to give you and the Roman the dream honeymoon. The old woman narrowed her eyes, suspicious. Romano lifted the head of the newspaper, intrigued. What are you talking about? It's simple, Elizabeth replied as she was starting to pack her bags. If you think taking care of sick is a woman's obligation, then it's time to prove that a man also handles. I'm going to Turkey, alone, and you two will spend the honeymoon together, with the right to picnic, ass, and all the delights that I had the pleasure of experimenting. Did you go crazy? Roman shouted. I'm a man. I can't do these things! Exclamation, and I'm not human. Elizabeth fired, looking at him in the eye. You said it was my duty as a wife. Excellent, because your duty as a husband is to protect me, not turn me into your maid. And since we're talking about duty, she turned to her mother-in-law, who tried to intervene. As for you, Grandma, our game is over. I know you pretend. I saw you walking when I thought no one was looking. The scam is over. Theodosia paled, trying to protest, but the words died in his throat. From now on, Elizabeth continued, closing her suitcase with a firm gesture, Roman will stay. Here, go wash, cook, change diapers, empty penitents, do everything a good wife does. And me, I go to Turkey, where I am sunny, swim in the sea, and forget that things like wooden toilets exist. Elizabeth, you can't do that. He begged Romano. The desperation stamped on his face. I can go, she answered, calling a taxi on her cell phone. Did you want me to understand my role as a wife? Perfect. Now you will understand your husband. An hour later, she was on the bus to town, ignoring her husband's dozens of calls. Upon arriving at the hotel in Turkey, he was received as a queen. The reserve was for 2 people, but only she appeared. The comprehensive manager offered him the best apartment overlooking the sea. In the first 3 days, Elizabeth did nothing but delight in freedom. He sunbathed until golden, swam until the muscles hurt, explored every corner of the city, and, for the first time in a long time, felt it breathed. Roman was still calling, but now it was not to complain, but to plead. Elizabeth, I'm not holding on, he confessed in one of the calls. Grandma doesn't stop asking for things. I can't cook, clean, wash now. Imagine how I felt, she answered, before turning off, with a smile of satisfaction. Because some lessons only learn when we are put in place of the other. And Elizabeth was finally where she should always have been. Free. Elizabeth calmly sipped her cocktail by the pool, her eyes shining with an irony that only those who have seen the world fall to her feet and then rebuild that could have. But I'm a man. So what? She countered, without even lifting her eye from the glass. It has hands, legs, brain. Turns around. By the end of the week, Roman's calls had become rare, and his voice, a threat of exhaustion that even pride could not disguise. That was when the truth came to light. Grandma Theodosia confessed, among guilty sighs, that she could walk, that could be used, that all fragility was just a well-rehearsed staging. It can't be. Elizabeth pretended astonishment, her lips bending into a smile that wasn't cruel, but she forgave. And now she says she doesn't want you to take care of her. What a surprise. On the 9th day, Roman appeared in the Turkish resort as a defeated man. The back eyes, the white clothes on the body that has lost weight from running between pans and medicines. He hugged her at the bedroom door, the smell of salt and despair impregnated on his shirt. Forgive me, he murmured, his voice broken. I was a selfish. You deserved a month of honey, and I turned you into a maid. Elizabeth did not hurry to answer. He let silence regret, as who knows that some pain only heals with time and some lessons only with consequences. And now, he finally asked, crossing his arms, now we do what we should have done from the beginning. His fingers trembled as he held hers. We ended this month together. In truth, and when we come back, we hire a real caregiver for Grandma, or a home, if she insists on this farce again. Elizabeth arched an eyebrow. What if I don't want to forgive you? Roman has lowered his head, as if he carried the weight of all broken promises. So I'll spend the rest of my life proving I changed, that I will never put the ones of others above your right to be happy. She watched the sea for a long time, the waves hitting the sand like a watch marking the time he had wasted. Then he turned to him, his firm eyes like seasoned steel. All good, but with conditions. The voice was calm, but left no room for negotiation. First, in this marriage, we are equal, without woman obligations or duties of men. Second, decisions where to travel, how to spend our time we take together. Third, here, she pointed to a finger between his eyes, if her family tries to use me as free labor again, I go out the door without looking back. I accept everything. He nodded, so fast that he almost stumbled in his own words. The days left in Turkey were finally the month of honey she deserved. Romano struggled to erase every shadow of guilt with gestures, morning cafes in bed, and hurried walks, nights when they only existed in the sound of the waves. When they came back, they found Grandma Fedosia not only standing, but with the house impeccable, the garden, and even chickens scratching in the backyard. Seeing them, the old woman lowered her eyes, her hands cheering the apron. "Forgive this old fool, my children," he murmured. "I just wanted a little attention, but now I understand. Lie just departs, who we loved." Elizabeth didn't smile. "I didn't need to. If you need affection, we come visit you, Grandma, but without theater. I promise, my girl." The old woman nodded, and for the first time, Roman saw sincere tears in her grandmother's eyes. He hugged both, the tight chest of relief. "So it's arranged. Now, let me make dinner for you." In the following years, the marriage of Elizabeth and Romano became another story. He learned to wash clothes as well as she, to cook without complaining, to divide the weight of life without measuring efforts. Grandma Fedosia lived another 5 years, active, independent, and even the neighbors commented as the daughter-in-law had straightened the old woman, not shouting, but with a lesson that hurt more than any sermon: the truth, even hard, is always lighter than the lie. Every year they traveled. They chose fate together without imposition. Sometimes Grandma went with them when everyone wanted. Roman told the story to friends as a warning. Love is not synonymous with servitude, and respect is not asked, it is conquered. And Elizabeth, it has become a lighthouse for other women, proofs that sometimes it is enough to plant their feet on the ground and say it comes to finally adjust to its place. His month of honey, after all, was not just a romance under the sun of Turkey. It was the first chapter of a life in which love and dignity went hand in hand. And this, yes, was a story that was worth telling.